Well, thanks for joining me here. I love getting to be with everybody on these, as we call them, the quarantine chats. And, well, it's just great to have something of meaning and purpose to provide in addition to our radio program. And this is a real treat for me because one of my favorite people in the world just happens to be, I've said this to many, many folks, the finest, most effective, brilliant communicator ever. And her name is Patsy Clairmont. And Patsy is with me right now, and we've got a few things to talk about. Patsy, thanks for joining me on Facebook Live.
I can't tell you how much fun this is and how I've been looking forward to it.
Well, I have to start with where we started. And Patsy and I, years ago, were authors for Focus on the Family. And there was an author dinner, and everybody was crowded around Dr. James Dobson. And there was this nice looking couple over kind of away from everybody else. And I'm not really big on crowds anyway. And I just thought, well, I'll go talk to them. And they were so wonderful. Didn't mention why they were there other than that she was an author too. But before the night was over, she was standing on a chair and she was the keynote speaker, and it was just an amazing talk. And ever since, we have been friends. And when I had the idea for Women of Faith, I said, if Patsy Clairmont could be part of this, we're going to do it. And sure enough, she said yes. Patsy, thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining my life the way you did. Oh, my goodness.
What a journey we've made.
Well, we really have. And, let's start with a journey that you made. I just love to talk about this for a few minutes because so many people in this coronavirus time, I mean, they've had anxieties and fears and things. And I mean, it has so intensified all of that. And of course, your story is that you were confined to your home. Maybe you could just take a couple of minutes to talk about that part of your life and how that resulted in you speaking to millions and millions of women who didn't come to your home. They came to arenas around the world.
I never anticipated what would happen. I never expected I would be housebound with fear. I never expected there would be a healing journey. I was in the pit of despair. And I love the psalm that says, and he brought me up out of a horrible pit in the miry clay. He has set my feet upon a rock. He's established my goings. He has put a new song on my lips, even praises to my God. And that is my story in a nutshell, or in a verse of Psalms, is that I was in despair. I was having a lot of mental instability, and I was feeding it with every fear that knocked on my window, which were multitudes of them. And I did not know that fear gets inflamed by the thoughts that we choose. And so it took a long while before I understood how to start coming out and realized if I didn't change something, I wasn't going to survive.
Right.
People have asked me, as a former agoraphobic, and then coming into us all being isolated, so to speak, how was that for you? And I said, well, I guess I had practice before the rest of you got there, but I have still felt the separation anxiety, relationally, and having freedoms that have always been a part of people's journey, to have that suddenly taken away. what I found that it does is it causes many of us to have to look at what we've been too busy to see. And my own brokenness and insecurity began to rise up in me as well, and I had to re-examine my life according to God's word and my own emotional needs.
Well, I tell you, I really love, first of all, just the way you state the reality of what is going on. We're really looking at, or almost forced to face, some things that we have been too busy to see, just keep running, but then also reorganizing our lives according to God's word. You know, we read in Romans 12:2, in the New Living Translation, it says to be transformed by changing the way you think. We literally have to get out of our own thinking and replace that with the thoughts of God. I think that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I had to be so purposeful, and still today I have to be purposeful in checking the content of my own language inside my head.
Yeah.
And that, and make sure that I'm on a steady and a sturdy path. I need that.
Yeah, I think we say stuff to ourselves. Sometimes we insult ourselves like we would never insult anybody else. But also, we just feed our fear with more statements of fear, anger, bitterness, or whatever. But you did overcome it, and you went on to be what I think the absolute star premier female communicator. It's so fascinating, Patsy. Over the years, people have said, oh my goodness, have you heard this talk? Excuse me. Have you heard this talk by this person on a TED Talk or whatever? She's just fabulous. And I'll listen to it and I will think, wow, that is a pretty good talk, because I've heard you, and nobody communicates from a stage the way you do. And here's what I know about you, and I want to talk about you helping others do it. But here's what I know about you. You will give, when we were with Women of Faith, you would give an amazing talk the first time we were out there in the first arena experience. And then the second time you gave that talk, it might be totally different, because you would take it apart, rearrange it, edit, and it really was such a profound message to me on how I approach communicating. I just felt so privileged to see that. But you really do evaluate and you act on what you see and feel after you give a talk for the first time.
Well, I'm such a suffering saint, evidently by choice. But I find that I overthink things. It is both a benefit and a detriment, in that I kind of pick it apart and then try to piece it back together and ask the Lord to bless my mess. So that's kind of where I come from. And you've been so kind to me with your words and your validation, and I thank you for the gift of that. Everyone needs encouragement, so thank you.
Well, I would love to believe, and I do believe, that I'm not a flatterer, that when I tell you and say what I'm saying, it's just absolutely the truth. Now, one of the things that I know about you and love about you is that you're not just focused on the story and storytelling by Patsy Clairmont, but you're trying to help people bring their story, whether it's to a board meeting or a presentation at a church or in a small gathering of folks or in an arena. You're trying to help people do that. I want to talk about that, but for people that are watching right now, what is one thing that would be important for someone if they were saying, you know, I want to bring my story to other people. I want people to know what I've been through or what I've learned. What's something really important for them if they're just now getting started on that vision for their lives?
to not make it so hard, and to write their story down according to their own heart, and then worry about putting it in a form afterwards. Because what's happening that I've heard again and again from so many people is they don't know where to start, they get overwhelmed, and they don't do anything. So I would say start small, let it grow. Be able to get your words down and then worry about your editing process. I tell people, if you will approach your story as first writing for yourself for personal therapy, because you can't write your story without feeling things again, because memories come packaged in feelings. So you're going to have a lot of feelings coming up. Let that happen, because the first thing telling your story does is give you some information for personal therapy, whether it's something that keeps your own heart aware of where you're at, or something you're taking into a therapist to help you piece together in a way that helps you to feel more whole. So it's first therapy, writing your story, and then it's identity. It's helping you define more clearly who you are, because we often live at a distance from reality. And this helps us getting a pinpoint against a paper. It helps us to clarify, oh, I thought I was like this, but listen to what I've written. I'm really like that. And that's not good or bad. That's just information that can be valuable with your identity issues. And then it can become legacy, whatever you write in your story, because you can leave that behind to leave a trail and a path for your family to follow. It may be your great-great-grandchildren that one day will say, I found these papers that my great-great-grandmother wrote, and I learned so much about what to do when I fail or I fall or I hurt or I grieve. And so we can leave a legacy. And then last of all, our story is meant to be ministry, that we could give help and hope to others. And I write and speak through the stories of my life, because that is a way I can bring others alongside of the truth. They may laugh their way into the truth, but the truth then will help to set them free.
Yeah. Well, I really believe that you do that better than anybody else. Everything from a dog that hops up into the window like a bunny over and over again to rubber band emotions. I mean, I've seen you play it all out, and I've seen you draw people in to some of the most meaningful messages. And I love the fact that you're encouraging people who want to speak to write it down first. You know, one year with Women of Faith, we were able to have Anne Lamott come in and just spend time with us. And in her book, Bird by Bird, she encourages people to write something, she used a different word, but write something crummy every day. In other words, don't be so, trying to be so profound. Just get it on the paper first. And I think that's what you're saying. Let's don't edit it. Let's get it down there. But Patsy, here's what I think is so fascinating and kind of astounding. You are willing to help somebody who writes down their story to look at it, to see it from a totally different perspective than maybe they can see it, or to see how what they've written down, if it was manipulated a little bit, would really connect with the heart of a listener who might be listening to the talk. You do personal coaching and mentoring, and they have all these master classes. You are the master. How do people get in touch with you if they would like to have you touch their story and then the ministry that they have?
There's multiple ways. Probably the easiest is patsyclairmont.com. And the information will be there, whether they want individual input or whether they want to purchase something that has information in it that they could read and share with friends. So there's a number of things available, and I'd be delighted to invest.
Okay. Well, and so it's a real simple, and I'll spell her in it, PatsyClairmont, patsyclairmont.com, and you can just go there and see how you could connect with Patsy. I don't think there's anybody that knows more about how to communicate, how to do it effectively and well. Now, I want you to just comment on this book, You Are More Than You Know, because to me, there's so many people that feel so badly about themselves, raised in maybe a church or in a family where there's so much shame or feelings of inferiority or I'm not good enough. And I just think this message, and you've written a whole book on it, but maybe you could just help somebody that's really struggling right now, and maybe the virus and the quarantine and all the stuff has made it worse. But give them some encouragement along the lines of we really are more than we know.
Yes, we are made in the image of God. That right there tells us this is a bigger thing than we realize. The two most important words in the English language are yes and no. No helps us to establish important boundaries relationally with people. And yes gives permission. We have to give the permission. We have to open the door of our heart for God to do a grand thing within us. And He doesn't stop doing the grand thing. He doesn't limit Himself to one occasion, one date on the calendar. We need to say yes to Him daily. And yes takes away all our defense mechanisms where we've been fighting to retain an identity that's small and narrow and dark and sad. We need to step out of our sad and out of our bad and into the light and wondrous love of His amazing grace. And it says, in the beginning, God created. That's the first thing He wants us to know about Him, that He's a creator. And then He tells us days later that we're created after His own image. That means we have unbelievable potential. We cannot wear out the gifts He gives us. He doesn't give us a gift to take it away. He doesn't give us a gift to use it just in one place. But the gift has eternal value. And Steve, I cannot prove this. It's just a personal belief. But I believe that we will take that gift with us into eternity. I think it is our hint of what we will be involved in when we get there. We all wonder, what will I do in glory? Well, I don't think He's going to take the gift away. I think it goes with us, and I think we'll be able to live in the fullness of it for sure then. But while we're here, we can keep opening it with the word yes. Yes, Lord. What You have for me today, even though I feel incompetent or unable or I'm lacking something, I can trust that You are at work in all of this, making things possible I could never have anticipated.
Well, I am so grateful you shared that, and I know somebody that's watching or listening is going to be inspired by that. Now, Patsy, one of the things, this is going to be probably a tough question to answer. I'm going to ask it anyway. But one of the things that characterized women of faith, it characterizes really everything we do at New Life, is we use humor, not just to be funny, but we're all aware, who have been doing this a while, that if somebody tells a moving story, half of the people might weep and half might think, oh, don't be so emotional. But when we use humor and we can get everybody in an arena of 18,000 people to laugh together, it is a bonding experience. Everybody is voting. Yes, I agree. That was funny. We're all in this together. And you have created that kind of bonding experience with 24,000 women in an arena. The value of humor as a bonding element in any event or a relationship is so powerful. Is there any, and I know this is tough and I don't even know how I would answer it, but is there any way to help someone find the humor in their life more readily or easily? Because it's not all that easy to be humorous to a lot of people.
Well, first of all, if you will listen to humorists and take notes on them, it's like reading. When you read a really wonderful book, you need to stop and say to yourself, what is it about this book that I love so much? Is it that they've got a great outline? Have they got the perfect topic? Have they got the right stories? Have they got all of the above? Do they use humor? There are components that go together that make a difference in the way we're able to communicate. And humor will take a hostile group of people and make them your closest friends when you learn how to use it. And there is humor in everybody's life, even lives that have been very difficult. My husband comes from a harsh background of a physically abusive alcoholic father. But when the 6 siblings get together, they remember moments that were very, very funny, and they laugh until they cry. I mean, it's therapy every time they get together. We think of tears being therapeutic, but God specifically says that humor, that laughter is a gift that is like medicine that cheers every part of who we are. And when that happens in a group, you instantly become friends with every other person in the arena that's laughing with you.
Yeah.
You feel a connection because you've just shared a positive experience. And suddenly they don't seem so strange or so distant. Suddenly they feel like you might be able to approach them afterwards and establish relationships. So laughter is a great friend. Examine your stories and go back and ask the Lord to show you, where's the funny part of this? Now, don't ask it in the middle of a tragedy because you're still just going to feel the tragedy. But in the daily things of life is where we find some of the funniest material.
Well, you have done that. I just want to say as we close out, Patsy, that one of the first things that we're taught is we're taught to share. It doesn't come naturally. We're told to share. And one of the things that has always characterized you is the ability to share. You have openly shared the truth from your own life with people, and I think it's inspired many. And now you're willing to share how you do it. And I want to encourage anybody that's interested in sharing the secrets of one of the greatest communicators ever, go to patsyclairmont.com. Talk to her about her coaching and her mentoring. You won't regret it. And Patsy, I love getting to connect with you again. I pray God's blessing upon you, and just anything you'd like to say as we close out our time together.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity of sharing with your audience. I thank you for your kind words and our long friendship. I can't believe that Les and I are still here. We're approaching our 58th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
58. Yeah. That's pretty good, isn't it? We think it's going to last. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to make it all the way home. So.
Well, my best to you, your kids-in-law, and I'll just hope our paths cross again real soon. Thank you so much for being with us, Patsy.
Too. Thank you,
God bless
Steve.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, one of my favorite people in the entire world, Patsy Clairmont, and she has really inspired and moved and motivated, brought a lot of people to Christ. Through Women of Faith, we had over 5 million women come and over 500,000 make first-time decisions for Christ. I would encourage you to check out her book, You Are More Than You Know, and go to patsyclairmont.com and look into what could you do with her in the area of her coaching you or mentoring you if you want to be the best communicator possible. Everybody needs a coach, and boy, she is a good one. Hey, thanks for joining me. We went a little long, but I'll tell you, this is a woman who's long on wisdom. Love her. God bless you. See you right here again next time. Come join me for my quarantine chat. Love being with you. See you. Bye-bye.